Hi, I'm Derek from Suzuki. I'm going to talk to you about a few problems that you may have with your engine. Certainly nowadays engines tend to be very much trouble-free, especially large engines such as this. They're very sophisticated units and problems are very rare, thankfully. If you do find that your engine won't start, there are quite a few things that you need to consider. First of all, make sure that there are very obvious things such as the kill cord is attached to the kill switch. Make sure that the unit is in neutral. None of our engines will start if they're in gear. Make sure you have adequate fuel supply. Very obvious things, but sometimes they're overlooked. Make sure that there's no water in the fuel, and so on and so forth. But it is very unusual for an engine not to start. Large units like this will usually start very easily. Sometimes it's the smaller units that will have problems. Nowadays, things like fouled spark plugs are unusual. They may have been more common in the past with two-stroke units, but nowadays units are four-stroke, and so spark plug fouling is a thing of the past generally. But small engines, fuel quality, water in fuel, stale fuel, that's the commonest kind of thing. If the engine starts to misfire, is running rough, once again, it's unusual nowadays for that to happen with bigger units especially. It's usually, if it happens, down to fuel quality, water in the fuel, and so on. That is going to be the likely cause, or water in the electrics. These units are very good, very well designed to prevent water from getting into the electrics of the engine. But it doesn't mean it's impossible. If it does, it can cause problems with misfires around spark plugs and so on. But if that happens, take the hood off, have a look. So the first thing to do would be to check the kind of fuel quality, anything in the fuel that's causing a problem. Take the hood off. Are there components here that are wet? Are any connectors obviously loose? Go around checking all the connectors. But as I said, it's unusual. Large engines, if there is a problem, will tend to show up with a warning on your instruments to say there is a fault with a component. That even applies to some of the smaller engines as well. If the engine stops completely, then once again the same old things again. Fuel, and make sure that something has not come adrift electrically with the engine. Those are the commonest of things. Overheating can be an issue. If you find that the engine is overheating, there will normally be a warning system with the engine that will alert you should the engine overheat. If it does, stop the engine. Don't just keep driving on. Stop the engine, have a look to see what it is. Often it can be something as simple as debris, a plastic bag, seaweed or something around the water intake at the bottom of the gearbox here. Make sure that's not blocked. Have a look to see if there's water coming out of the telltale or pilot water outlet. And that will give you a clue as to what to do. It may mean you've got to lift the engine out of the water and take whatever debris there is away from the water intake there. If it does overheat, don't just keep going. Let the thing cool down and then maybe make it quietly back to port if you can. If it starts to overheat again, slow down, stop, let it cool down. Don't just keep going on because you cause a lot of damage to it. Other issues that you may get warnings about might be oil pressure. If there is a problem with oil pressure, then you may find the engine will automatically shut down to a much lower operating speed. It won't allow you to go above a certain operating speed. It may even stop entirely, so you have to restart. But oil pressure is obviously very important. Engines such as this are very sophisticated, and a lot of damage can be done internally if you don't pay attention to it. If you keep on driving the boat with low oil pressure, you can do some damage to the engine. So it'll be expensive damage as well, expensive to put right. The other thing is over revving. There will be a warning in the system to tell you that you've been over revving the engine. This can be caused by the kind of way the boat is being used. Sometimes if the prop is coming out of the water regularly, it can over rev and put a warning on for that. If it's happening all the time and the prop is in the water, it may be due to the choice of propeller you have. It may be that the size of the propeller is incorrect, the pitch is incorrect, allowing the engine to spin up too much over rev.